Hello, everybody. Kale here. Um, just checking in today. I got a haircut today, and actually, I got a haircut yesterday. At my long-term barber's, Eric, the barber here in Portsmouth. Shout out to you, Eric. Hope you're doing all right. Appreciate the haircut. Realized today that I have been going to Eric for my haircut for 18 years or 17 and a half years, something like that. And I feel like he does a pretty good job. But it's pretty wild to think that I have been going to get my hair cut um, at the same place for that long. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised that I still have hair. If you would have asked me 18 years ago, would I be bald by now? I mean, obviously the receding hairline, that's fine. I would have said, yeah, sure. Obviously, I'm going to be bald. I mean, obviously, I'm gray and thinning, but I really thought I was going to be bald. So I guess, all can't be too bad if I still have the hair on top of my head. But it's interesting to me to be going to have lived in a place for 18 years means that I have lived here in Rhode Island for as long as I lived in Louisiana, where I was born, which is a pretty remarkable thing to think that I've been here as long as my home. I don't really consider myself a Rhode Islander. I love Rhode Island. I love the people here in the great tiny state of Rhode Island. But I still consider myself a Southerner from from Louisiana, from New Orleans. You know, spent a huge the second half of my childhood in Baton Rouge, and and I even note on my Twitter profile that I live in exile. Um, and it feels a little bit mean to my Rhode Island friends to suggest that I'm here in exile, but I do really kind of feel that way. Uh, I would love to live in Louisiana, but my work keeps me here, work that I love. But it is strange, especially when there's snow covering the ground and it's been here for over a week plus. We don't get all that much snow uh, on the island part of Rhode Island. I actually live on Aquidneck Island, which is the island part of Rhode Island. And, the snow comes and goes, but man, it's been really cold the last, gosh, 3 weeks, really since Christmas. It's been very, very cold. I would say even sort of unseasonably cold, if that makes sense. But I feel a little bit like I have dual loyalties. I think I'll always consider myself a Southerner, even if it has been so long since I've lived there. But there's really something to be said for living somewhere else than from where you were born and raised. Even if I was thinking about this the other day, even if it's just for a year, I would suggest to go to live somewhere else for 5 seasons, let's say. If you show up somewhere in the summer, uh, stay there summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall, right? So you really get a full sense of the what it's like to live somewhere where you're not from. You learn all kinds of things. You pay attention in all kinds of different ways. Uh, since nothing is normal or you're normal, when you live somewhere else, you immediately develop a kind of perspective on things because you have something to compare it to always. And I think that's a really good skill to have in life because it's so easy to become overly familiar with things to the point where you just don't think about it. You don't waste the mental resources of thinking about things that are normal. I was reading, I think it was a Matthew Crawford book, and he talks about how much we offload to our kind of routines, our scripts, our liturgies, I call them, of the day. And in part, we do that because it is a resource saving mechanism. So we don't have to think about some of the things. And if you think about the rituals that you have in your own life, the things that you do kind of automatically, we should be thankful for those automatic things that we do because we don't have to waste any mental energy on it. So, but we run the risk, of course, of being captive to those things which we don't think about. So, from time to time, it's probably worth scheduling a check-in. Many religious and spiritual disciplines require a kind of examination of conscience or meditation or what have you. In my own, Catholic tradition, we have a variety of different ways in which we can do that. Of course, Ignatius of Loyola was a big practitioner of the spiritual exercises, and one of those things is to use your imagination to sort of think about the things that you no longer think about, to pay attention, to live in the present, which is the hardest thing for us to do. Pascal says all the world's problems stem from man's inability to spend 10 minutes in his room alone, and there's real wisdom to that. But at any rate, I'm not sure how I got there. I think I was talking about living in another place. That's right. So living here in Rhode Island for as long as I've lived has allowed me to have the benefits of stability, I guess. Maybe I'm kind of a de facto monk here at Portsmouth, because I've lived in the same place for so long, and I'm kind of a homebody. I don't like to go out and about all that often, which sort of suits my work as a boarding school teacher. But it's a long time to be in one place. And so, but because it's not where I grew up, I have kind of benefited from the kind of sense of adventure. And I think there are two basic strategies. Yeah, I'll go ahead and say this. I think there are two basic strategies. You can stay somewhere or you can go somewhere. And both have their pros and cons. And I recommend that we do both of them at some point in our lives. That's why I think it's so important for you to live somewhere else. For me, what it has afforded is the ability to listen in a way that I would not have listened if I had stayed home, because I'm constantly watching people and talking to people and interacting with people who don't necessarily share the same priors that I have. And so I think that's good, uh, to be able to have a kind of perspective. But in order to have perspective, you need something to make the comparison. And so to do that allows you to do it. Allows you to have perspective on that which you otherwise might not have on it. So I think that um, gain in perspective that you get by exile is worth at least mimicking if you can go off for a year or so, a year plus, 5 seasons, I guess is my idea here, that it'll open some mental pathways and some pattern recognition that you might not otherwise have. So, you're right. All right. Well, that's my check-in for today. Got the haircut. Shout out to Eric. I think he does a good job. And 18 years, man, it's a long time. All right. See you next time.